Who is Kweku Essien when the boardrooms are quiet and the business calls stop? Now, let's come to business. The birth of Seso Global. What specific problem did you see in the property markets that convinced you that Africa needed something like Seso Global? What personal values guide your decisions when millions of dollars and people's life savings are involved in property investment?
Africa has problems, right? Those problems are opportunities. If you look at them that way, you can at least begin to solve. It's just too hard to understand what it takes to purchase property in Africa. So in Ghana, of course, but certainly in Africa. 60% of the court cases in Ghana are land litigation issues. People send money to their family members. Their family members defraud them. There are some land guards fraud when it comes to buying property. That's why we work with lawyers. That's why we work with banks. That's why we work with developers. The idea is to build that trust through partnerships and through our work. We operate in Ghana, Nigeria, and Liberia, and we are hopefully going to be launching soon in Kenya, South Africa.
Now, looking at this system, do you believe the mortgage culture in Africa is evolving, or are we still in the early stages?
I found that actually what's interesting is, of course, a lot of people are interested in property in Accra. Accra is a major
that's a hot zone.
Yeah, that is a hot zone. And most people are fine with properties, let's say 45 minutes, an hour from the airport, right? So East Legon Hills, Abokobi, Pokwase, right? They are fine with those places as long as they can get a 2, 3, maybe 4 bed between 50 to 150,000, right? I think most people are okay with that. And so actually the task is to build more units like that within those regions, right? What I found is that most people can maybe typically, a mortgage amount they can typically obtain from the bank is anywhere from about 80,000 to about, let's say, 150 to $200,000 or so. That's the band most people can maximum attain.
So frankly, let me ask this question, and I want you to be frank with me. Is real estate still one of the most reliable ways to build wealth in Africa? Welcome to another episode of the Neutral Ground Stock Show. Today, we are joined by a man who is quietly redefining how Africans buy and invest in properties. My guest is Kweku Essien, the CEO of Seso Global, a technology-driven property marketplace that is bringing trust, verification, and financing into an industry that is historically been clouded by uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Kweku Essien. Kweku Essien, thank you for coming here.
Thank you very much for having me. No, it's a real pleasure. Yeah. I'm really happy to be here.
Right, thank you. First of all, before I delve into business, I would like us to do a personality check. We want to understand the man behind the business. Who is Kweku Essien when the boardrooms are quiet and the business calls stop?
I think I just like to enjoy life. I think, at the core of everything is quality of life, right? So that's really the thing.
Okay. Now, you studied political science and economics at the University of Toronto, is it?
Yes, sir.
Did you always imagine yourself building a real estate technology company, or did life pull you in that direction?
Yeah, I think more so life. I did political science and economics, so I did, do some economics there. And so, you find that, really both of those things kind of, work in your favor in real estate in a way. Real estate, you are politicking a little bit, when you're speaking with clients, banks, real estate developers, governments. And then, of course, the economics of it is quite simple. People will tell me they want something in cantonments, but can they afford it, right? And then on the other front of it is, I may have a nice estate, but can people afford it, right? At that price point, right? And how do we make it much more affordable for people through payment plans, through mortgages, etc. And so I think that I fell into it. It's not necessarily the realm. I don't think I had any real, thing in mind. I'm not going to lie in terms of what I would do, but I don't necessarily think that I thought I would do real estate either.
Okay. So with that, what personal values guide your decisions when millions of dollars and people's life savings are involved in property investment?
Yeah. Well, I think at the core, of course, is God Almighty, right? So I am a Christian, and so you have to
Mm-hmm.
follow the tenets of the Bible. But even
Mm-hmm.
if, regardless of that, I just want to sleep at night, right? And at the end of the day, you can make money short term, of course, and you can live a good life in the short term. But like we all know and understand, at some point it'll catch up to you. So I think that's really the two main things, right? That push me towards is trying to do the good
Mm.
thing. Yeah.
So, people who know you well, what do they say is your biggest strength as a leader, and what is one of the traits you are still working on to improve?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm good analytically. Like I can look at something and understand what the problem is, what the problem set is, right, and how you can just solve that issue, right. I
Mm-hmm.
think like most people, maybe the issue is patience, right.
Mm-hmm.
You want to do it now, right, but I think that's something I've gotten better with age, right. Is that you just understand that in as much as on paper I know what I need to do, I still live in the real world, and so I'm dealing with people. I'm dealing with people's own agendas, own goals, and you have to try and
Mm-hmm.
work within that as well. And so that's part of the, I guess, taking aspect of things. Patience is probably the bigger issue for me, and I think being able to analyze something is probably the.
So let's come to your early career and formative experiences. Before founding Seso Global, you worked as a business analyst at Conros Corporation, is it?
Yes. No.
What lessons from those 5 years shaped you to run your business?
Yeah, no, I was very lucky to have worked for Conros. Conros was led by a Canadian family who were also very successful entrepreneurs, right? And so I think they taught me quite a bit in terms of just being able to analyze opportunities, right, and where the gaps are, right. In as much as Africa has problems, right, those problems are opportunities. If you look at them that way, you can at least begin to solve them, right? So I think in a lot of ways, right? They were entrepreneurs, and so it's good to learn about entrepreneurship from entrepreneurs.
You also coordinated Giants of Africa, founded by Masai Ujiri.
Yeah.
That initiative focuses on empowering youth through basketball. How did that experience influence your philosophy about opportunity and development in Africa?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it just helped me see was, again, how to look at opportunity, right? So Masai himself, for those that are not aware, he used to run the Toronto Raptors, very inspirational guy, Nigerian, born in northern Nigeria, managed to find
Mm-hmm.
himself, at the highest echelons of NBA, right? And won a championship with the Toronto Raptors. And he will tell you, I mean, his start in basketball just came from a Peace Corps gentleman who gave him a basketball, who built a makeshift basketball court in northern Nigeria. And because of that, all his friends decided to play basketball, right? And
Okay.
I say that even with respect to, like I said, real estate, right? You can think about
Mm-hmm.
it. That place was just dirt. They built a
Mm-hmm.
basketball court there in northern
Yeah.
Nigeria. And because of that, Masai Ujiri is running the Toronto
Right.
Raptors, right? So if you think about it in that sense, right? That is really the importance of space and being able to develop space, right?
Okay.
A way to transform everything, right? We
All right.
forget sometimes that although we can't live without water and air, those are all very obvious. It's also very obvious you can't live without land and the space
Mm-hmm.
that you live in. And so being able to, nurture that in a way is also quite important. So I think that's also part of the lessons, I learned from working with Masai.
Now, let's come to business. The birth of Seso Global. If I'm wrong, correct me. Real estate across Africa is often described as profitable but chaotic. What specific problem did you see in the property market that convinced you that Africa needed something like Seso Global?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is trust and transparency, right? I add
Mm-hmm.
financing in there as well, but trust and transparency will lead to more financing, right? It is
Mm-hmm.
just too opaque. It's just too sometimes it's just too hard to understand what it takes to purchase property in Africa, so in Ghana, of course, but certainly in Africa, right? So the core of it is that on our side is that we work with several real estate developers. We vet them before we onboard them. Work with several lawyers who can do further vetting on our behalf and also on behalf of clients. We work with banks
Okay.
that can also do further vetting and also then provide financing as well. And then now we're also doing a lot more with government as well to be the final vetters, right? As well, right? Of any
Yeah.
type of projects as well, right? And so at the core of it, there are a lot of things that were already being done by people before we came there, right? I don't want to say we are like the saviors of it all, but what it is
Okay.
just building off the back of that, right? That it was just too opaque. It was just too. There was a lack of transparency, and that just leads to a lack of trust, and it kills business, right? More than anything.
Coming back to this, your platform describes itself as Africa's trusted property marketplace. Yeah, trust is a very powerful word. So that's why I'm trying to dig what exactly were people struggling with before Seso came along? Was it fraud? Was it,
Yeah, I'm sure you know it already. 60% of the court cases in Ghana are land litigation issues.
Okay.
People send money to their family members. Their family members defraud them. There are
Yeah.
some land guards fraud when it comes to buying
Mm-hmm.
property, etc. You come back after some time, your land has been encroached, etc. Right, and so all of these issues, right, have led to even a lack of mortgages. In Ghana, 2 million housing shortage, etc. So all of these issues compound, right? They all compound, right? In Ghana, the mortgage rates used to be at 35% in the past, right? All of these issues just compound to create a mess, right? And so what
Mm-hmm.
we said is let's use technology, let's use our platform, let's bring on
Okay.
board developers that who we can easily vet. Let's bring on board the banks, let's bring on lawyers, surveyors, let's work with government, and let's create a platform to allow you to at least to a certain extent be able to purchase property with a calmer mind, right? And so we've served hundreds of clients across the board, right, over the years, right? And the idea in our part is just to continue to improve that, right? Because even on us, right, the question is why would you trust us, right? And with
Mm-hmm.
us, it's just more about a brand exercise. That's why we work with lawyers. That's why we work with banks. That's why we work with developers. The idea is to build that trust through partnerships and through our work, right? So, yeah, those are the issues, and that's what we're trying to solve.
Now, for some hearing about Seso Global for the first time today, how would you explain the company in simplest but powerful way?
I think it's just a platform that makes it very easy and transparent to search, finance, and purchase vetted real estate in Africa, right? And so today
Mm-hmm.
we operate in Ghana, Nigeria, and Liberia, and
Yeah.
we are hopefully going to be launching soon in Kenya, South Africa.
Now, one of the biggest fears investors have is buying land or property that turns out to be disputed. How does Seso Global's verification system solve this long-standing problem?
Yeah, well, I'll say something off the bat that at the end of the day, we
Mm-hmm.
are just a company. We cannot solve all issues. I want to be very clear about that. I'm not
Very frank. Yeah,
Superman.
that's
I'm
good.
not Superman in that regard. And with land that is not especially owned by a corporate, but owned by a developer, it's very important
Mm-hmm.
to understand that it is always buyer beware, right? And let's just be
Mm-hmm.
very, very clear about it. It's buyer beware, right? And so, in terms of that aspect, we work with lawyers. We have an escrow system that we utilize
Okay. Yeah.
and which I always recommend. It's just so important to work with lawyers, and also very important. Well, obviously, work with good lawyers, right? And we have some good lawyers that we work with, and we have an
Mm-hmm.
escrow system that we utilize, where before any money can be shown to be in an escrow account, so that all parties are aware that there's cash to complete the transaction. Because I also understand the seller's side. Sometimes they don't know if the buyer is serious or not,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But once
Yeah.
the money is in escrow, it's all quite clear that people are very serious, and that all we need is that certain documentation is shown and search, right? So, obviously any title documentation, any indentures,
Mm-hmm.
etc., can be checked at the various registries. Checking, of course, if any land is in litigation as well in the
Okay.
courts, right? Obviously, checking if all property tax, any other fees are being paid on the land, right? And then, just
Yeah.
doing sometimes a site visit as well, just to check to see, to ask the people on the ground, is there any issue here? Are there
Yeah.
any landlords here, etc. So with land that is just owned by a family, owned by a chief, right? It is always buyer beware, right? And you have to just
Okay.
ensure that you are working with the highest level highest levels to purchase it, right? So we are trying more so to work with obviously developers and also with government as well, right? In offering estates and also serviced land, right? And typically service.
Hello, viewer. If this conversation has added value to you, please take a moment to subscribe, comment, and share. Your support truly helps us grow and bring more meaningful discussions to a wider audience. Actually, we have two channels, which is the Neutral Grounds Talk Show and then Beyond the Physical Talk Show. All links will be put in the comment section, so take note and please just go and subscribe. And also, by subscribing and sharing, you are not just supporting the channel, you are helping us build a community that values truth, wisdom, and an open dialogue. Thank you for being part of this journey. Continue watching. Yeah.
It's land that typically has had its sort of a land titlement documentation looked at and worked at and registered, and typically has water and power connected to it, right? So that's where we typically move clients to. I know a lot of people prefer unserviced land, etc., because sometimes the price is a bit cheaper, right?
Yeah.
But it's just important to understand that with that land is always buyer beware.
So it's like this: you do all the verifications, and then the buyer just comes to buy. Is it?
Yes. We'll do the verifications, and then the client can purchase, right? Exactly that, right?
Yeah. So according to my research, you work with over 185 property developers, and you have about 15,000 verified units available. That scale is impressive, is it?
Yeah, it's quite a bit. Right?
Yeah, it's impressive. How did you build that level of trust with developers across the market?
Yeah, I mean, like everything else, it's been in the market long enough. We've been around since 2020, right? And so, with some of these developers, actually, they're exclusive to us. A lot of them, of course, are non-exclusive. But the idea is quite simple, a basis of brokerage, and the core is to bring them clients as well. So, of course, with all of these people, the idea on the other side is just, can you help market my properties? Can you bring me sales, right? So it's not too, I'll say, tasking at times. Of course, at the beginning, it was much harder to get them, to get them onboarded. But as you are in the industry, as you show your face, you are around, right? It becomes much easier to do it.
Okay. Now, what does your vetting process look like behind scenes before a property appears on your platform?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's quite simple, right? And this is something that we've obviously improved over a period of time. But yeah, we just check your land title deed. We want to see any recent search as well, which is not older than 12 months, right? Your site plan, elevations, floor plans, your building permits. Of course, if you have any previous developments as well, any indenture or sublease as well, where applicable. Obviously, your company registration documents, we have to see that. And the company financials is also something that we look at as well, right? To ensure that it's a well capitalized.
Okay. Now, let's come to property finance and accessibility. For many Africans, owning a property isn't just about finding the right house, it's about financing it as well. How is Seso Global working with banks to make mortgages more accessible?
So we actually helped a few banks, ABSA, EcoBank, and Bank of Africa, launch non-resident Ghanaian mortgages. Let me call them that, right? For Ghanaians who live abroad, right, who wish to purchase. We've managed to get them to come down to rates around 9 to 10%, right, or so, right, which I know are high maybe compared to the United Kingdom, but again, compared to what was there before, they used to be at 35%, etc., right, in the past. Right. And these are 15 to 20-year mortgages where you typically have to put out about 20-30% down payment. And, a lot of the properties we're offering are definitely not, I think, average price probably in the UK for like a 2 or 3 bed is maybe around 350,000 pounds or so, right? Roughly. And so the properties in a similar property you could probably get for about 100 to 200,000 maybe dollars, right? Depending on the location, of course, in Ghana. Some even you could get cheaper. We are looking to offer units at a much cheaper, less than $100,000, potentially in some locations with the government, right? We're looking at potentially launching a project in Kumasi for about $50,000 for a 3-bed. Hopefully, for those from Kumasi who are interested. But on the financing side, what we found is that to be able to offer these rates and then to offer properties that are, let's say, between 50 to 150,000 is the band that most people are comfortable with, right?
Comfortable,
For
yeah.
a 2 or 3 bedroom home, right? Or so, right? Whether it be a flat or a detached or semi-detached home, I find those are the prices that work for people, right? And so that's really what we are trying to steer towards, right?
Yeah.
Towards that aspect, right? Where people, I know you are out there in the West working very hard for your money, right? Some of you, as you said before, have mortgages there yourself, and so don't want to be strained with it, but you do want to have a property back home, so that when you are there,
Okay.
you're going to stay there, right?
Yeah.
That's your home, and also even for the long term, maybe for your kids or when you retire, that is when that those are the homes that will be there for you as well in Ghana. I think most people, the aspiration at least is to have something back home, right? So
Yeah.
that's how we assist people, right, with the financing aspect. I will say some developers do offer payment plans. Typically, these payment plans are, let's say, maximum 3 years. Typically, on average, 2 years, but can be 3 years, right, or so. And so
3 years to how much?
pay whatever the amount is on the property, right?
Oh wow! At what percentage profit?
I would say it's a crazy percentage, to be honest with you. So I mean, typically, let's say if it was $150,000 property, it would be maybe 155 or 160,000 if you pay over 3 years, right? Let's say, right? So it would go up a little bit, right? And that is not always feasible for some people. You know, even 150,000 paying out over 3 years, that's 50,000 every year. That's
that's
not feasible.
that's what I was just about to talk
Yeah,
about.
it's not feasible for a lot. But so that was set out for some niche group of people. Some people perhaps can afford that and do that. But the mortgages is where we really want to hit this with it. And the rates that I'm telling you, those are hard currency. Let me see, dollar rates, right? The 9 to 10, 11%. There are city rates, of course, that are between 18 to 22%, right?
Okay.
And depending on who you are, you know, of course, if you earn in cities, you can only get a city mortgage. For those in Ghana are looking at it. But if you earn in dollars, you can get these dollar rates, and you can choose between the two. You can, if you earn in dollars, you can do it at the city or the dollar. I would say for those that are a little savvy, sometimes it is wise to do it in the city, even though it is 82%. Just because historically Ghana inflation can eat into that amount over a period, right? So it depends on how you think about it.
Now, looking at this system, do you believe the mortgage culture in Africa is evolving, or are we still in the early stages?
I think both. Let me say that, right? So I think that because of the product we brought in, there are a lot of people who are really, really interested in mortgages. When we launched with Absa, etc., we had tremendous interest in it from there as well. Of course, people had their questions, their inquiries. They are now looking to make their decisions, etc., on it. But what I found is that most people can maybe typically, a mortgage amount they can typically obtain from the bank is anywhere from about 80,000 to about, let's say, 150 to $200,000 or so. That's the band most people can maximum attain. Of course, you don't always get that maximum amount, especially if you have a mortgage, you know, that you already are paying. You're definitely not going to get that amount, right? But that's typically the range. And I found that actually what's interesting is that, of course, a lot of people are interested in property in Accra. Accra is a major one.
Yeah, that's a hot zone.
Yeah, that is a hot zone. And most people are fine with properties, let's say 45 minutes, an hour from the airport, right? So East Legon Hills, Abokobi, Pokwase, right? They are fine with those places as long as they can get a 2, 3, maybe 4 bed between 50 to 150,000, right? I think most people are okay with that. And so actually the task is to build more units like that within those regions, right? That is actually the main issue in Accra. You find that what's being built a lot more, of course, are high rises, right? And there's nothing wrong with the high rises. Some people would prefer to live in those, of course, or you can get good Airbnb rentals, short term, long term from those. But a lot of typical Ghanaians, you know, like their detached home, even if it's detached, but at least, you know, just a standalone home.
Very true.
Where they have 2 or 3 bed, right? And the others,
is it not because building in Accra is very expensive?
Maybe
that is not what they want, but you get me.
Well, I'll say most people do want 2 or 3 bed detached. I'd say a lot of people that I've spoken to, that is what they
Okay.
would prefer. I would say
Okay.
building is obviously a different, conversation at times.
Yeah.
Right? What I'm finding, what is evolving, let me say, right, is that in the past, perhaps people would want to build over a long period of time, right? I'm sure you
Yeah.
saw it, that people build over 10, 20 years or so, right?
Yeah.
Their home over a period of time. What is changing, I find, is people would prefer that they
To buy.
buy and the
Okay.
building, even if it takes 2 years, 3 years to complete, that's better than waiting that long period of time and putting money in piecemeal, right? And so that's that. I
That
find,
is even dangerous.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
It can be can be dangerous.
yeah. Building over that long period of time can be dangerous, of course, right? And I think people are moving away from that, right? That's what I'm seeing, right? But of course, I am seeing people buying land, and there are construction mortgages as well that you can get as well to build your dream home. Typically, they can give you 50% of the total amount, right? As well
Yeah.
as that can help people speed up the building of their home, because again, some people would prefer to build the way they want to build, right? And so that's also something that you can have an offer where you buy your land and then build over that period. Sorry, the last thing I just want in terms of trends, right, is that what I actually found was quite interesting is that there are a lot of people abroad who actually want a home in Kumasi, Takrade, etc., Sunyani, etc.
Outskirts of Accra.
Yeah, I mean in other cities completely, right? They were born there. They were born in these places, and they don't know Accra, right? Right, and so sometimes people from Accra, we think only Accra, but there are a lot of Ghanaians from a lot of different places,
Yeah.
and even they left abroad, but they left abroad from where they were at, right? In
Yeah.
Sunyani and Takrade, Kufuridua, Kumasi, especially, right? So that's also something that we are finding is is also needed, more units in some of these different areas.
So if a young professional watching this interview wants to buy the affairs home through Seso, what would that journey actually look like?
Yeah, I mean, so you typically can come through our website. Our team will reach out to you, and we have typically a little questionnaire. We'll ask you, of course, a few questions just to get a baseline of
Can you
what.
give your website out?
Yes,
Whilst, yeah.
www.seso.global. So SESO .global. That's GLOBAL. And so it's very easy to find us. You can Google it or find us there as well. Yeah, just reach out to us there, or even through any of our social media as well. We're happy to answer. And simply enough, we will run through just simple questions with you in terms of your budget. Do you need mortgage financing? What type of locations you're looking for? What type of property you're looking for. We'll share with you some options, of course. If you're looking for a mortgage, we can do a pre-assessment. Typically, a pre-assessment. What we need from you is your date of birth, because typically it can't go over your retirement age, right? We need how long you've been employed by your current employer. So we would need you to be employed at least 1 year. And typically the banks are looking for salaried employees. I know there are people who do contract work or self-employed. There are banks that can work with you on that, but it is a little bit more stringent to get from a mortgage when you're self-employed. I want to be honest about that. And then your last 3-month pay slips, right? So your last 3-month pay, this is for salaried employees in particular, your last 3-month pay slip, right? It's good to know how much you earn. And then we can then come back to you with basically an understanding of how the maximum amount that the bank is willing to offer you and for how long of a period, and how much you would need to pay on a monthly basis. So this gives you a good idea of your budget, right? And then from there, that's when it's good to then pick the property that you're interested in. And we have a bouquet of options, of course. Depending on your option, we can assist you with finalizing that. Typically, of course, if you do it through a bank, the bank will do a lot of the vetting on the property as well. So you don't need to lean on just our vetting. The bank will do the vetting on it as well before they of course process the property, process the mortgage. But if you were to pay just cash, we always recommend you have a work with our lawyer and utilize the escrow model as well, because again, there's no need to just lean on our vetting. Please do your own vetting, right? I actually don't want to work with any clients that don't want to do their own vetting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Things can change very easily.
Yeah. Very
Yeah,
true.
vetted it. Things can be changed with any developer and any property. And it happens not just in Ghana. This is something that can happen globally. And so it's always important that you work with accredited individuals to do this.
Okay. Now, your platform is described as blockchain based prop tech. If I'm wrong, correct me. For viewers who might not understand that, how does technology make property transactions safer and more transparent?
Yeah, so I mean, our and this is our one part of our goals, right? Really, is to better ourselves even within the government and the land registry, etc. But all it is to put on chain, right, a verified truth about a particular property, and
Oh,
then be
wow.
able to track that from day one, right? And so
Mhm.
what I mean by that is that it can be tracked on there that a search was done on a particular property. That information is bedded on that particular unit, and now that information is there forever, and it makes it much
Yeah.
easier to change, to tweak that information at any point, to modify that information. It makes it immutable, right? And so that single source, initial source of truth is always there. And so when another transaction occurs, let's say I sell the property to you, right? You may also do your own verification checks, etc. That will be logged onto the blockchain, and once it's registered in your name, that's also then logged onto the blockchain, right? And so
Okay.
that then creates a barrier against any type of fraud as well, right?
Yeah.
In the future, and with paper systems, fraud is always prevalent, right? And there's nothing wrong with having
Yeah.
paper on the side and also having this as well. It's good to have maybe have both. But that's when I think our platform will be at the highest levels, right?
Okay. So it's all about eliminating most of the fraud that has historically plagued African real estate markets.
So I'll say that is one use case, right? That's one main use
Okay.
case. The other use case is around tokenization, right? And raising
Oh.
capital as well, right? For
Mhm.
developments, right? So either raising capital for a new development or for an existing development, being able to extract equity from that as well, right? And let's
Okay.
say you own a home or you own a
Mhm.
condo, you are renting it out, you make a certain amount of money every year from
Mhm.
Airbnb. You can
Yeah.
now sell your interest or part of your interest in that unit, right? Let's say you sell 50% of your interest in that particular unit, right, to
Mhm.
people in the market, right? So you
Oh.
get, let's say it was $100,000 unit, you now get $50,000, right? And let's say you
Oh.
were making $1,000 per month, right? You can now
Mhm.
offer to give those people $500 a month
A
as
percent.
well
Yeah.
as return,
Wow.
right? And this can all be done through the exchange as well, right? And so
Okay.
that's also something as well we're working on. I'm sure you're aware in Ghana now, crypto
Yeah.
has been allowed as
Mhm.
well in
Yeah.
Ghana. So that those are all also things that we're targeting as well, right? Again, to make it much
Okay.
more easier to finance development, make it much easier for people to extract capital from their own assets, etc. as well, right? That's all
Okay.
future game planning, all of this as well, right? And where
Okay.
we hope to get to.
Now, your presence is already strong according to the conversation, your presence is strong in Ghana and Nigeria. And there are also hints of opportunity in Liberia, is it?
Yes.
What is your broader vision for expanding across the African property market?
Yeah, well, I think we really want to expand really across all countries that are interesting. Right? And I think
Yeah.
all countries are interesting, right? So as long as there's no big conflict in the area, we're quite keen to launch there. Of course, I think Kenya is a great market, right? And with a lot of these
Okay.
markets, we look at the diaspora numbers as well. In Nigeria, about $24 billion in remittance is sent every year. In Ghana, it's about 3 billion. In Kenya, it's also roughly about
Wow.
3 billion, right? South Africa is also
Yeah.
a market that we're quite keen on. South Africa is a more mature market, right? Of
Yeah.
course. And South Africa has a lot more
Advanced.
local buyers, but there are also global buyers that are interested in South Africa, on a daily basis. People are looking to purchase property there. Their properties are actually well priced as well,
Mm-hmm.
well priced for what they offer there. And yeah, and what you find is that places like that, even Rwanda as well, is quite interesting for what they built there as well. They're
Okay.
also a much more organized market, right? Zanzibar in Tanzania, etc. as
Yeah.
well. There are various markets like this that are quite interesting to us. But I think across the board, all of Africa, I think needs our solution, and it's just more
Mm-hmm.
about being able to expand appropriately. So Kenya, I think, is one that will be in quite soon, and we'll be looking at
Okay.
other different markets here.
Now, talking of Ghana and Nigeria, what similarities or differences have you observed between the real estate markets in Ghana and Nigeria?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are a lot of similarities between the two, right? I will say that Ghana, perhaps, well, it's quite interesting. I'll say that in Nigeria, you'll probably find a lot more smaller developments than
Mm-hmm.
obviously here. Ghana, you
Oh,
typically find there are people with
really? I never knew.
well, no. You find Ghana there are a lot more, let's say, larger or mid-sized developments, mid-sized to larger.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, the
Yeah.
bigger developments in Africa are in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
right? So,
Oh, okay.
just to say that, so there are mega developments in Nigeria, right? As well, right? I'll say that in terms of the market and the clientele, of course, you find a lot more uh, Nigerians in the diaspora buy. Of course, Ghanaians in the diaspora buy as well. But you find that in Ghana, there has been a lot more influx of African American interest as well, right? Foreign interest to real estate in Ghana has gone up a notch, especially over the last 5 years or so. But in a lot of ways, the issues are quite similar, right? There are issues around fraud,
Yeah.
scamming. These are all issues that are quite similar in all markets. And so there is a large distrust in all of these. I'll say that the banks in Ghana are a lot more responsive towards providing financing than in
Oh,
Nigeria.
wow.
Not to say that there aren't programs there. There's actually a program by the government for to provide mortgages as well as that 9% interest rate for 20 years on the naira, right? Which is very interesting there. But in a lot of ways, they are quite similar, and that's part of why we decided we could launch in both at the same time. They are close enough to each
Okay.
other as well, right? As well, right? So yeah, that.
Okay. Now, many people in the diaspora wants to invest back home, but the fear of being scammed is always on their mind. How does Seso give confidence to the Africans abroad who wants to buy property safely?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say obviously you don't need to just do it through us. Do it through the escrow model, right? It's very
Mm-hmm.
important. Do it through the escrow model and do it through the banks as well. Right? I think you do it
Mm-hmm.
through these two channels. You're not going to get scammed, right? No chance. Most people, the issue around scamming or fraud is that most Ghanaians like to just do cut corners a little bit. Most people like to cut corners, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to pay lawyers. They don't want to pay for a service. They feel like they could do it themselves, right? Maybe they don't want to go through the hassle of a mortgage. Although I think that was probably more in the past.
Yeah.
Interest rates were so high, right? But if you do it through an escrow model, you do it through a bank, you're not getting scammed anytime soon, right? So
Oh,
that's really part of what we are offering here is an ecosystem play that work with our advisors will guide you through this journey, right? And we'll make sure you're
okay.
working with the right people. And we don't charge clients, right,
Okay.
for our brokerage services.
Oh, wow.
We only charge the developer once we close the sale. I'll
Oh,
just put it out there. The only thing that we do charge is an application fee for the mortgages,
okay.
right? When you want to
Okay.
apply for a mortgage. But when we are
Okay.
taking you to the site, etc., we don't charge. And again, we made that decision because obviously there are agents that do charge, and I understand why they charge, right? Sometimes they don't want people to waste their time, right? Just be quiet. Right. We don't do it more so because we want to build that trust with clients,
Okay.
right? As well, more
Okay.
than anything, right? So that's part of our marketing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, frankly, let me ask this question, and I want you to be frank with me. Is real estate still one of the most reliable ways to build wealth in Africa today?
100%, 110. I'll say this, the less we as Ghanaians ourselves get involved in it, the more we'll realize that other people have taken keen interest in our real estate. And we'll start
Mm-hmm.
asking ourselves, oh, where did this come from? Where did it build this? Who
Yeah.
bought this land, right? And we'll
Yeah.
realize it's going to be a lot of foreigners
Yeah.
that would have done it. And I see it, obviously, myself, I'm involved in the real estate. I see a lot of foreigners who are even developers themselves, foreigners who've bought land, massive amounts of land to do whatever it
Wow.
is they want to do. They seem to see the opportunity, right? Maybe fair enough. They understand where to get capital, where to do things, etc. But I think it's important to get a piece of the pie for yourself
Yeah.
before it grows a little bit. And I think, I will say this. I was with the Minister of Housing, right, just about 2 weeks or so ago, and they mentioned that housing is the year of housing this year. And so the goal, hopefully, is to build more affordable housing, right? Again, houses 2 or 3 bedrooms under $100,000, right, or so,
Yeah.
right? To make it more feasible for people to at least embed themselves in it, right? And hopefully in the future, what we'll offer is tokenization as well, so people can buy a piece of a particular asset that is doing well as well. But I would say, I would save up, I would look to get involved, I would look to get a mortgage where I can as well to own a piece of Ghana, right? As well, especially
Okay.
within these times that we're living in the world. I think we find and understand quite quickly that home is home, right? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's really it.
For sure. Okay, so now building a platform that connects thousands of properties and developers is not an easy thing to do. What has been the toughest challenge you face as a CEO?
So I'll say, it's just a lack of liquidity in this market, right? So getting the banks to even get on board to provide financing was, I think, sometimes a tough slog. Funds to come in and even fund perhaps developments in Ghana, etc., in Nigeria, sometimes a tough slog. Even as a company, raising capital for West Africa exactly is a tough slog. So I think that is a key thing, and the reason that is tough to do all of those things is because people have a lack of trust in the markets in West Africa, right? And so that's all part of it, right? Really, at the core of it is that people really believe that it's not transparent enough. It's hard for them to get data on West Africa. It's hard for them to trust people. They've heard of all the issues, etc. And so that is where you find a lot of the issues stem from, right? So
Yeah.
I am building up a brand, and I have to build it up to the point where people trust me, not just you as a buyer, not just a buyer, but even investors, banks, other parties who may want to be involved in it. So that's the toughest slog, being a trustworthy brand or name.
So when the story of Kweku Essien is written decades from now, what impact would you like people to say Seso Global had on Africans' property
Yeah,
industry?
yeah. I think more than anything, I think, like I said, it's place, right? So, I saw a sign that says, if you're not feeling good in a particular place, change scenery, right? Right.
Yeah.
But some people cannot change the scenery. They're in Ghana, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's very tough, right? And so instead of leaving a place to change the scenery, why don't we just change it, what's there right on the ground? So
Yeah.
I think that, you find that, simple things. If like a development is built and then now they have parks in that development, there are courts in that development. There's grass is manicured, trees are being grown. There are very aesthetically beautiful developments being built. All of that changes the mindset of people, right? And so I think that is really the core thing. That how can we change scenery? Right, with this, right, and help people find a very nice home, right? So that'll hopefully be the thing. Hopefully, people don't need to remember my name for it, but I think they will just have that feeling, and that feeling that hopefully that I've been involved in.
Now, finally, if someone is watching today or someone watching today wants to explore property opportunities through Seso, what should they know before they begin their journey?
Yeah, I think you can look at our YouTube channel. We have a lot of videos there. You can join our webinars as well. You can join our WhatsApp group as well, our WhatsApp groups, etc. Or just message us. Even if you're at the beginning of the journey, you can message us, right, and just be part of our Substack, our newsletter as well, right? And so perhaps I'll share some of that with you. But once you go onto our website, you see a lot of those things there, and just join us on the journey, right? I understand with real estate, that is for most people the most expensive thing they will buy. I don't take it likely that someone will just going to make a decision today after hearing me speak with you today. In any case, whether you want to buy now, or in 5 years, just stick with us. And I think we'll get better as a company. Products will get better as well. And you will also hopefully grow your pockets so that you can come and buy something from us.
Okay. Mr. Kweku Essien, thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on Neutral Grounds talk show. And to my viewers, if you enjoyed this episode, and want to see more interviews like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might benefit from this conversation. And as always, we would love to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment below and join the discussion. My name is Richmond Dada, and this has been the Neutral Ground Stock Show. Bye.